Crusher Jenkins grabbed the scalding coffee pot from the mess hall counter and poured it directly onto Darnell Washington's face. The paralyzed man's skin turned red, instantly steam rising from his cheeks as 300 inmates roared with laughter. "Welcome to Blackstone Cripple!" Crusher kicked the wheelchair hard, sending it spinning across the concrete floor. Before Darnell could recover, Crusher's boot slammed down on the wheel, trapping him in place. He leaned down and spat directly into the older man's eyes. "What you gonna do about it? Wheels cry beg, roll away!" His crew surrounded the wheelchair like wolves circling a wounded deer. T-Bone Harris slapped the back of Darnell's head. Big Slim Marcus yanked his shirt. Another soldier dumped a food tray over his lap. But through it all, Darnell Washington did not flinch, did not cry out, did not beg. He simply wiped the spit from his eyes with quiet dignity and adjusted his hands on the wheel rims with the calm precision of a surgeon preparing for an operation. What happened next would make every man in that yard question everything they thought they knew about strength, about weakness, and about the catastrophic mistake they had just made. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button and follow this story until the very end. Drop a comment telling me which city you are watching from so I can see how far this story travels around the world. Now, let us begin. Crusher's hand shot toward Darnell's throat. His fingers never made contact. In a blur of motion that defied everything the yard had ever witnessed, Darnell's left hand intercepted Crusher's wrist. His right hand locked onto the elbow, and with a twist so precise it looked almost gentle, he hyperextended the joint past its breaking point. Crusher screamed. The sound cut through the laughter like a knife. 300 inmates went silent. Guards froze mid-step. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. Darnell held the position for exactly 2 seconds, long enough for everyone to see, long enough for everyone to understand. Then he released. Crusher stumbled backward, cradling his arm, his face twisted with pain and disbelief. "What the hell? How did you—" "I warned you." Darnell's voice carried no emotion, no anger, no satisfaction, just cold, absolute fact. "You should have listened." T-Bone charged without thinking. He was 240 pounds of prison muscle and bad intentions. He had killed 2 men inside these walls and crippled 4 more. He had never lost a fight in 8 years of incarceration. He lost this one in 3 seconds. Darnell tilted his wheelchair backward at the exact moment T-Bone's haymaker whistled past his face. The big man's momentum carried him forward off balance, vulnerable. Darnell grabbed his extended arm, pulled sharply, and used T-Bone's own weight against him. The soldier flipped completely over the wheelchair and crashed onto the concrete with a sound that made several inmates wince. Big Slim pulled a shiv from his waistband. "That's different," Darnell said calmly. "Fists are one thing. Weapons change the equation." "Damn right they do." Big Slim circled slowly. Blade extended. "Let's see how tough you are when you're bleeding." "Let's not." Big Slim lunged. The shiv aimed for Darnell's chest. A killing blow designed to end this embarrassment once and for all. Darnell moved. His hand caught Big Slim's wrist mid-thrust. His thumb found the pressure point between the tendons. Big Slim's fingers opened involuntarily, and the shiv clattered to the ground. Before the weapon stopped bouncing, Darnell had already twisted Big Slim's arm behind his back and applied pressure to his shoulder joint. "Drop," Darnell commanded. Big Slim dropped to his knees. "Stay." He stayed. Guard whistles exploded across the yard. Boots pounded concrete. Shouts echoed off the walls. But by the time the officers arrived, Darnell was sitting calmly in his wheelchair, hands folded in his lap, looking for all the world like a man waiting for a bus. "What happened here?" Sergeant Williams demanded. "Misunderstanding," Darnell said. "These gentlemen were helping me find the library." Williams looked at Crusher clutching his arm, at T-Bone groaning on the ground, at Big Slim still on his knees afraid to move. "The library." "Yes, sir, I'm told they have an excellent collection." Williams stared at Darnell for a long moment. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, maybe, or respect, or fear. "Get these men to medical," he ordered his officers. "And you." He pointed at Darnell. "You and I are going to have a conversation." "Looking forward to it, Sergeant." As the guards cleared the yard, the whispers began. They spread from inmate to inmate like wildfire, growing with each telling. By dinner, the story would reach every cell block. By lights out, it would become legend. The paralyzed man in the wheelchair had just destroyed 3 of Blackstone's most dangerous inmates, and he had done it without leaving his seat. Sergeant Marcus Williams had served at Blackstone Federal Penitentiary for 22 years. He had seen riots, murders, escapes. He had watched men break under pressure and other men rise to challenges that should have crushed them. He thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. "Darnell Washington." Williams read from the file spread across his desk. Age 54, former United States Army Special Forces, 3 tours in Iraq, Purple Heart, Bronze Star with Valor, Silver Star for actions in Fallujah. Darnell sat across from him, hands resting quietly on his wheelchair armrests. That was a long time ago. Not that long. Williams flipped a page. Honorable discharge in 2008 following a spinal injury sustained in a vehicle accident. Complete paralysis below L2. Also accurate. After discharge, you founded the Washington School of Martial Arts in Atlanta, developed something called the Iron Wheel Combat System specifically designed for wheelchair-bound fighters. For anyone with mobility limitations, not just wheelchairs. Williams looked up. You trained federal agents, police officers, military personnel. You competed internationally and won 3 national championships. He closed the file. And somehow, you ended up in my prison on assault charges. The system isn't perfect. No, it isn't. Williams leaned back. Tell me what really happened. Darnell was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of a father's love and a father's rage, carefully controlled but never extinguished. A man named Victor Reeves wanted my property, the land where my academy sits. He's been buying up that neighborhood for years, pushing out the old families, the old businesses. Everyone sold except me. So he applied pressure. He sent 3 men to convince my daughter Maya to convince me. They cornered her in a parking garage after work, told her things would go badly for both of us if I didn't cooperate. Williams nodded slowly. And you happened to show up. She texted me her location. I got there in time. To do what? Darnell's eyes went cold. To protect my child. By putting 2 men in the hospital. By stopping 3 men from hurting my daughter. What happened to them was their choice, not mine. They could have walked away. They chose to fight. Williams studied the man across from him. He had interrogated hundreds of inmates over the years. Learned to read lies in the way men held their shoulders, the way their eyes moved, the way their voices pitched. This man was telling the truth. Victor Reeves has connections, Williams said. Politicians, judges, people who owe him favors. I'm aware. He made sure you ended up here. Yes. And now? Darnell met Williams' gaze directly. Now I do my time. Keep my head down. Go home to my daughter when this is over. That's going to be difficult. Why? Because you just humiliated the 3 most powerful inmates in Cell Block D. Crusher Jenkins has run that block for 8 years. He can't afford to look weak. He's going to come for you. I know. And you're not worried. Darnell smiled slightly. It was not a pleasant smile. Sergeant, I spent 20 years learning how to kill people in ways that would give you nightmares. I've been shot twice, stabbed 3 times, and blown up once. I lost the use of my legs and rebuilt my entire life from a wheelchair. Nothing in this prison scares me. Williams was silent for a long moment. Then he did something he had never done with an inmate before. He extended his hand. Good luck, Mr. Washington. You're going to need it. Darnell shook it firmly. With respect, Sergeant, luck has nothing to do with it. The memory came to Darnell that night, as it often did when sleep refused to come. November 14, 2007, a convoy outside Mosul. 3 Humvees carrying his Special Forces team back to base after a successful operation. The IED detonated directly beneath his vehicle. He remembered the sound first. A roar so loud it seemed to swallow the world. Then the sensation of flying of his body leaving the seat and tumbling through space like a rag doll. Then nothing. He woke up 3 weeks later in a military hospital in Germany. His wife Sarah sat beside his bed, holding his hand, tears streaming down her face. The doctors say you might not walk again, she whispered. Might not. There's extensive damage to your spine, L2 vertebra. They've done everything they can. Darnell closed his eyes. He thought about his daughter, just 16 years old, about the martial arts academy he had dreamed of opening when he retired, about all the plans he had made for a future that suddenly seemed impossible. Darnell, Sarah squeezed his hand. Say something. He opened his eyes. I'm going to walk again. The doctors said, I heard what they said. I don't care what they said. I'm going to walk again. He never did. 8 months of physical therapy, countless surgeries, experimental treatments that drained their savings and left him no better than before. The damage was too severe. The nerves too destroyed. Modern medicine had limits, and he had crashed into them at 60 miles per hour on a dusty road outside Mosul. Sarah stayed by his side through all of it, through the rage and the depression and the long nights. When he stared at the ceiling and wondered if death would have been easier, she stayed until the cancer came. Pancreatic. Stage 4 by the time they caught it. She had been so focused on his recovery that she had ignored her own symptoms until it was too late. She died 14 months after his accident, leaving him alone with a teenage daughter and a body that would never work the way it used to. "You have a choice," his therapist told him during one of their sessions. "You can let this destroy you, or you can find a new way forward." "There is no new way forward. I was a soldier, a fighter. That's all I know how to be." "Then be a fighter. Just fight differently." It took him another year to understand what she meant. Another year of anger and self-pity and watching Maya try to hold their family together while he fell apart. But eventually he found his way back. He couldn't kick anymore, couldn't stand, couldn't move the way he used to move. But his arms still worked, his hands still worked, his mind still worked, and that was enough. He spent the next 5 years developing the Iron Wheel system, adapting every technique he knew for combat from a seated position, learning to use the wheelchair itself as both shield and ward weapon, training his upper body until his arms were stronger than his legs had ever been. By the time he opened the Washington School of Martial Arts, he was more dangerous in a wheelchair than most men were on their feet. His students didn't come because he could walk. They came because he could teach, because he understood struggle in a way that healthy people never could, because he proved every single day that limitations were just obstacles to overcome, not walls to hide behind. "Dad?" The voice came from the doorway of his hospital room. Maya, 18, now home from her first year of college. "Hey, baby girl. You were having the dream again. How could you tell? You always grip the sheets the same way." She crossed to his bed and sat beside him. "The explosion? Yes. Does it ever get easier?" Darnell considered the question. "The dream doesn't get easier, but I get stronger, strong enough to carry it, strong enough to keep moving despite it." "Is that what you teach your students?" "That's exactly what I teach them." He took her hand. "And it's what your mother taught me, what she would want me to teach you." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I miss her." "So do I, every single day." He squeezed her hand. "But she's still with us, Maya, in everything we do, in everyone we help, in every moment we refuse to give up." That memory lived inside Darnell as he lay in his prison bunk staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of Blackstone at night. Sarah was gone. His freedom was gone. His academy was in danger. But Maya was still out there, still fighting, still carrying the legacy of a mother she barely got to know and a father who refused to let her down. He would survive this place, for her. "You're becoming a problem, Washington." Father Thomas O'Brien stood in the doorway of Darnell's cell, his weathered face grave with concern. The priest had served as Blackstone's chaplain for 15 years, and he had learned to read the warning signs of approaching storms. "I'm just trying to survive, Father." "No, you're doing much more than that." O'Brien entered the cell and sat on Reyes's empty bunk. "You're disrupting the natural order of things, and in prison, disruption has consequences." "What kind of consequences?" "The permanent kind." O'Brien leaned forward. "There's a contract out on you, $10,000 to whoever puts you in the ground. Word is it came from outside these walls." "Victor Reeves." "You know him. He's the reason I'm here." Darnell's jaw tightened. "He's also the reason my daughter is in danger." O'Brien's expression shifted. "Your daughter?" "Maya. She's investigating my case, trying to get my conviction overturned. Reeves doesn't appreciate the attention." "Has she been threatened, Dilma?" "Yes." "And yet she continues." "She's her mother's daughter. Stubborn beyond reason, brave beyond measure." Darnell's voice softened. "She's going to get herself killed trying to save me." O'Brien was quiet for a long moment. "I may be able to help." "How?" "I have contacts outside, people who work with families of the incarcerated, people who could offer her protection while she continues her investigation." "Why would you do that?" "Because I've spent 15 years watching good men get destroyed by this system. Because I believe in redemption and second chances. And because..." O'Brien paused. "Because I served too. Different war, different time. But I know what it means to sacrifice everything for your country and have your country turn its back on you." Darnell studied the priest's face. "Vietnam, 1969 to 1971, Marine Corps. I came home to protesters spitting on me and a government that pretended I didn't exist." O'Brien's voice carried old wounds. "It took me 20 years to find peace. I don't want you to wait that long." "I appreciate that, Father, truly." "Don't appreciate it yet. Survive first. Then we can talk about appreciation." The attack came 3 nights later. 6 men, 2 in the morning. Shift change when the guards were distracted and the cameras mysteriously malfunctioned. Darnell had been waiting. He heard them coming 50 feet down the corridor. Their footsteps were wrong. Too careful, too coordinated. Men walking with purpose, not men walking to the bathroom. He was already in his wheelchair when the cell door clicked open. "Hello, gentlemen." The first attacker hesitated. He had expected a sleeping target, an easy kill, not a man sitting upright in the darkness watching him with eyes that reflected the dim emergency lighting like a predator. "Don't just stand there," someone hissed from behind. "Do it." The man raised his weapon and lunged. Darnell rolled backward, letting the attack pass through empty space. His hand shot out, caught the attacker's wrist, and twisted. Bones cracked. The man screamed. Before the scream died, Darnell was already moving. He released the broken wrist and drove his elbow into the second attacker's solar plexus. The man doubled over, gasping, and Darnell's palm strike caught him under the chin. 2 down, 4 to go. The remaining attackers spread out, trying to surround him in the confined space. Smart tactics, but the cell was small, and small spaces favored the defender. Darnell backed his wheelchair into the corner, protecting his flanks, forcing them to come at him 1 or 2 at a time. "You don't have to do this," he said calmly. "Walk away now, and we pretend this never happened. Crusher's paying good money for your head. Crusher is paying good money for you to die. There's a difference." The third attacker rushed forward with a shiv extended. Darnell caught his arm, redirected the blade into the fourth attacker's shoulder, and used the momentum to throw both men into the wall. The fifth man turned and ran. The sixth stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the carnage around him. 5 men down in less than 30 seconds, blood spreading across the floor, groans echoing off the concrete walls. "Your turn," Darnell said. The man dropped his weapon and raised his hands. I'm out. This ain't worth it." "Smart choice. Now pick up your friends and get them to medical. Tell them you fell down some stairs." "What about Crusher?" "Tell Crusher that next time he should come himself. I'm tired of fighting his errands." The man nodded frantically and began dragging his companions toward the door. Within minutes, the corridor was empty, leaving Darnell alone with his sleeping cellmate and the silence of the prison night. "You can stop pretending," Darnell said. Reyes rolled over slowly. His face was pale. "How did you know Sukuna? You stopped snoring the moment they picked the lock." "I didn't want to get involved." "I don't blame you." Reyes sat up, studying Darnell with new eyes. "What the hell are you, man? Seriously, what are you—" "I'm a father trying to get home to his daughter, that's all. Nothing more, nothing less. Fathers don't fight like that." "This one does." Darnell transferred himself back to his bunk. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be interesting." "How can you be so calm? You just hospitalized 5 people. 6 technically. The one with the broken wrist is going to need surgery." "And that doesn't bother you?" Darnell was quiet for a moment. "It bothers me more than you know. Every act of violence takes something from you, something you don't get back. But sometimes violence is the only language people understand, the only thing standing between you and destruction." "Is that what your martial arts taught you?" "No, that's what war taught me. Martial arts taught me how to control it, how to use only what's necessary and no more, how to win without losing myself in the process." Reyes lay back down, but Darnell could tell he wasn't sleeping. The younger man's breathing was too fast, too shallow. Fear did that to people. Reyes: "Yeah. You're safe. I'm not going to let anything happen to you." "Why, you don't even know me." "I don't need to know you. You're my cellmate. That makes you my responsibility." That's not how prison works. It's how I work." Darnell closed his eyes. "Good night, Reyes." "Good night, Washington." Outside, the prison hummed with secrets and violence and men waiting for dawn. But inside Cell 47, something had shifted. A bond had formed. And bonds once formed were not easily broken. Jerome Thompson found Darnell in the exercise yard the next afternoon. The young man was nervous, fidgeting with his hands, eyes darting toward the guards and the gang members who watched from their usual territories. "Mr. Washington, Darnell, can I talk to you?" "You already are." Jerome almost smiled. "Almost. I heard what happened, what you did to Crusher's boys. Everyone's talking about it. People talk too much. They're saying you're some kind of ninja or something, that you can fight like nobody they've ever seen." "I can fight. That part's true. The ninja part is exaggeration." Jerome shifted his weight from foot to foot. I wanted to ask. Spit it out, son." "Can you teach me?" Darnell studied the young man carefully. He saw fear, yes. Desperation. Shame. But beneath all of that, he saw something else. Something that reminded him of the wounded veterans who came to his academy looking for a way to rebuild themselves. Hope. Why do you want to learn? Because I'm tired of being scared all the time. I got 4 years left on my sentence. I don't want to spend them being everyone's victim. Learning to fight won't make the fear go away. Then what will come? Nothing makes it go away. But you can learn to control it, to use it, to let it sharpen you instead of paralyze you. Is that what you do? Every single day? Jerome was quiet for a moment. I have a little sister. She's 12. Our mom died last year. Overdose. I'm all she has left. Darnell's expression softened. What's her name? Has Destiny. That's a beautiful name. She's a beautiful kid. Smart, kind, everything I'm not. Jerome's voice cracked. I need to make it home to her. I promised her I would, but every day in here I feel like that promise is getting harder to keep. Why are you in here? Drug possession, first offense. I was stupid. Thought I could make quick money to help pay for her school supplies. Jerome shook his head. 5 years for being stupid. And now she's in foster care waiting for a brother who might not survive long enough to come get her. Darnell was silent for a long moment. Then he made a decision that would change everything. Tomorrow, same time, same place. Bring anyone else who wants to learn. Jerome's face lit up. Really? You'll teach me? I'll teach you. But understand something first. What I'm going to show you isn't about fighting. Not really. It's about becoming the man your sister needs you to be. The man you're capable of being but haven't found yet. I don't understand. You will. Darnell looked across the yard to where Crusher and his crew were watching with undisguised hostility. Now go, before you attract attention. Jerome nodded and hurried away. But as Darnell watched him leave, he felt something stir in his chest. Something that had been dormant since the day he was convicted and dragged away from his daughter. Purpose. He had found his purpose again. The first lesson happened 3 days later. 7 inmates gathered around Darnell in a quiet corner of the yard, away from the basketball courts and weightketstools and weight benches where the gangs held territory. Young men like Jerome. Broken men. Scared men. Men looking for something they couldn't name. Before we begin, Darnell said, I want you to understand something. What I'm going to teach you isn't about violence. It's about control, discipline, understanding yourself well enough that no one else can control you. Marcus, 23, serving time for assault, snorted. Sounds like fortune cookie stuff. It does, and most people dismiss it for exactly that reason, which is why most people lose. So what's the first thing we learn? How to punch, how to kick, how to breathe. The men exchanged confused looks. Breathing seriously. Seriously. Darnell demonstrated drawing air deep into his lungs. When you're afraid, your breathing becomes shallow, fast, chaotic. Your body floods with adrenaline, your heart races, your muscles tense, your thinking narrows. You become reactive instead of proactive. He released the breath slowly. But if you can control your breathing, you can control all of that. You can stay calm when everyone else is panicking. You can think clearly when everyone else is acting on instinct. You can see opportunities that everyone else misses. Just from breathing. Just from breathing. Darnell gestured for them to sit. Close your eyes. Follow my voice. For the next hour, he taught them techniques he had learned in Special Forces. Methods designed to calm the nervous system under fire. To maintain focus when bullets flew and brothers died. The exercises looked simple. They were anything but. I can't do this, Deshawn complained. My brain won't stop. That's normal. Then how do I make it stop? You don't. You acknowledge the thoughts and let them pass. Like clouds moving across the sky. You don't grab them. You don't push them away. You just watch them come and go. By the end of the session, all 7 men were sweating despite having done nothing physical. Same time tomorrow, Darnell said, and bring others, men like you who want something more than what this place is offering. Jerome lingered after the others left. Darnell. Yes? Why are you doing this? You don't know us. You don't owe us anything. I'm doing this because someone did it for me once, my father. He died when I was 16, but before he went, he taught me everything I know. Not about fighting, about living, about being a man even when the world is trying to break you down. I never knew my father. Then let me tell you something he would have said if he was here. Darnell met Jerome's eyes. You are worth more than you know. More than this place. More than your mistakes. And if you're willing to do the work, I will help you find out just how much. 2 weeks passed. Darnell's classes grew from 7 students to 15, then 30, then 50, men from every cell block, every race, every gang affiliation, united by a hunger for something more than the daily cycle of violence and desperation. The transformation was remarkable. Men who had spent years simmering with rage began finding peace. Men who had been victims started walking with confidence. Men who had been predators began questioning what they had become. But success brought enemies. "The wheelchair guy is a problem," Snake Petrov told the Council of Gang Leaders. Snake ran the Aryan Brotherhood faction with an iron fist and a reputation for creative cruelty. "His little classes are cutting into our recruitment." "Lost 4 new fish last week," confirmed Miguel El Diablo Vargas, who controlled the Latino gangs. "They said they don't need protection anymore. Said lightning taught them to protect themselves." Crusher Jenkins, still nursing his wounded pride and his wounded wrist, spoke last. "We need to shut him down, together, put aside our differences, and eliminate the common threat." For the first time in Blackstone history, the 3 rival leaders agreed on something. "How do we do it?" Snake asked. "The man fights like a demon. We've sent 6 men after him already. All 6 are in the infirmary." "We don't fight him directly," Crusher said. "We find his weakness. Everyone has one." "What kind of weakness?" Crusher smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "I've been doing some research. Our boy has a daughter, Maya Washington, lawyer in Atlanta. She's been investigating his case, trying to get his conviction overturned." So she's been digging into Victor Reeves, asking questions, making noise. Reeves isn't happy about it. El Diablo leaned forward. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that we deliver a message. Through the daughter. Make it clear that if Washington doesn't back off, if he doesn't stop his little classes and disappear into solitary where he belongs, something very bad might happen to the girl." Snake nodded slowly. "I have contacts outside, people who can deliver that kind of message." "Then we're agreed." The 3 men looked at each other. Rivals, enemies, united by a common threat. "We're agreed." Maya Washington was working late at her apartment when the phone rang. "Hello. Is this Maya Washington, daughter of Darnell Washington, currently incarcerated at Blackstone Federal Penitentiary?" Maya's blood went cold. "Who is this, Mom?" "A friend of your father's. Someone who's concerned about his well-being." "What do you want?" "I want you to understand something, Maya. Your father has been making waves inside, challenging the established order, disrupting systems that have been in place for years." "Good. Those systems are corrupt." "Maybe they are. But they're also the only thing keeping him alive." The voice dropped lower. "If he doesn't stop what he's doing, if you don't stop your investigation, bad things are going to happen. To him, and to you." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm warning you. There's a difference. Stop digging. Stop asking questions. Let your father serve his time quietly, and go home when it's over." "And if I don't?" "Then the next call you receive will be from the warden, telling you there was an unfortunate accident, a prison riot, a stabbing in the yard. These things happen. Such a tragedy." The line went dead. Maya sat in the darkness of her apartment, her hands trembling, her heart pounding. For a long moment she considered doing exactly what they asked, stopping her investigation, letting her father serve his time, staying safe. Then she thought about her mother, about what Sarah Washington would have done in this situation. She picked up the phone and dialed a number she had memorized weeks ago. "FBI Atlanta Field Office, how may I direct your call? I need to speak with Agent Rodriguez. Tell him it's Maya Washington. Tell him I have evidence of conspiracy, corruption, and obstruction of justice involving a federal inmate. Tell him I'm ready to cooperate fully with his investigation." "Please hold." Maya held, and as she waited, something hardened inside her, something that had been soft and frightened and uncertain. They wanted her to back down. They had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Darnell knew something was wrong the moment Jerome approached him in the yard. The young man's face was pale. His hands trembled. His eyes kept darting toward the corners where Crusher's crew had gathered in larger numbers than usual. "What happened?" "I got a message. Through the grapevine." Jerome's voice shook. "They know about your daughter. They're planning something. Something bad." Darnell's entire body went still. "Tell me everything." "I don't know the details, just that Crusher Snake and El Diablo had a meeting, that they're working together now, that they found a way to get to you that doesn't involve fighting." "My daughter." "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have told you. I should have." "You did exactly right." Darnell gripped Jerome's shoulder. "Listen to me. What you just told me might have saved her life. Do you understand? You did the right thing. What are you going to do? Darnell looked across the yard. Crusher was watching him with a smile. Snake whispered something to his lieutenants. El Diablo cracked his knuckles. They thought they had won. They thought they had found his weakness. They were about to discover that a father protecting his daughter was not weak. A father protecting his daughter was the most dangerous thing on earth. What I have to do, Darnell said quietly. What I was born to do. He gripped his wheel rims and started rolling toward the three gang leaders. Jerome watched him go, terror and awe fighting for control of his face. The yard fell silent. Every inmate turned to watch. And somewhere in the guard tower, Sergeant Williams reached for his radio, already knowing he was about to witness something that would change Blackstone forever. Darnell stopped his wheelchair 10 feet from where the three gang leaders stood. Crusher on the left, Snake on the right, El Diablo in the center. Behind them, nearly 40 soldiers formed a wall of muscle and menace. You wanted my attention, Darnell said. You have it. Crusher stepped forward, his bandaged wrist a visible reminder of their last encounter. You've been busy, old man, building your little army, teaching these punks to think they're warriors. I've been teaching them to think. Nothing more dangerous than that. See, that's exactly the problem. Snake circled to Darnell's left, his pale eyes cold as winter. Thinking leads to questions. Questions lead to resistance. Resistance is bad for business. Your business is my concern, how that? It's not, but you've made yourself our concern. El Diablo cracked his knuckles. Your little classes are cutting into our recruitment. Men who should be paying us for protection are suddenly deciding they don't need it. Maybe they don't. Maybe we need to remind them why they do. The threat hung in the air, like smoke. Darnell felt the weight of 300 watching eyes, felt the tension crackling between the factions, felt the moment balanced on a knife's edge. I know about my daughter, he said quietly. The three leaders exchanged glances. Crusher's smile widened. Do you now? I know you've threatened her. I know you think that gives you leverage over me. Darnell's voice dropped lower, taking on an edge that made several nearby inmates step back. You're wrong. Wrong how? Wrong because you don't understand what you've done. You think threatening Maya makes me weaker, makes me more controllable, makes me willing to back down and disappear. Doesn't it? Darnell looked at each of them in turn. Crusher, who had built his empire on fear and violence. Snake, who had killed without remorse and slept soundly every night. El Diablo, who had risen from nothing through sheer brutality. None of them had ever faced a father whose child was in danger. None of them understood what that meant. Let me explain something to you, Darnell said. Something about fathers and daughters, something you clearly don't understand. He rolled forward slowly, deliberately closing the distance between them. When you threaten a man's child, you don't weaken him, you don't control him, you unleash something that has no limits, no boundaries, no fear of consequences. He stopped 3 feet from El Diablo, close enough to strike if needed. You think I care about surviving this place, about getting out in one piece, about my own safety? Darnell shook his head. I stopped caring about any of that the moment you mentioned my daughter's name. You're bluffing. Am I? Darnell smiled. It was the smile of a man who had nothing left to lose. Try me. Send your men after Maya. See what happens. I promise you this before I die, I will take every single one of you with me. Not just you three. Your lieutenants, your soldiers, your families on the outside, everyone you've ever cared about will pay for what you've threatened. The yard was silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. You're crazy, Snake whispered. No, I'm a father. There's a difference. Crusher looked at his allies. Something had shifted in the air. The confrontation they had planned was not going the way they expected. They had come here to intimidate, to dominate, to break. Instead, they were facing something they had never encountered before. A man who genuinely did not care if he lived or died. A man whose love for his daughter had transformed him into something beyond fear. This isn't over, Crusher said finally. No, it isn't. Darnell held his gaze. But let me make one thing clear. If anything happens to my daughter, anything at all, I will hold you personally responsible. All three of you. And I will spend every remaining moment of my life making you regret the day you ever heard my name. He turned his wheelchair and rolled away without looking back. The three leaders stood frozen, watching him go. Around them, the yard slowly came back to life. Inmates began moving again. Conversations resumed. The tension eased. But something had changed. Everyone felt it. The balance of power in Blackstone had shifted, and nobody was quite sure what would happen next. Sergeant Williams lowered his radio and let out a breath he didn't know he had been holding. In 22 years, he had never seen anything like what he had just witnessed. A man in a wheelchair had just stared down the three most powerful gang leaders in the prison, and he had won. That night, Darnell lay awake in his bunk staring at the ceiling. The confrontation had bought him time, but nothing more. Men like Crusher and Snake didn't respond well to being challenged. They would regroup, plan, strike again when he least expected it. He needed to protect Maya, needed to warn her, but prison communication was monitored, limited, controlled. Every phone call recorded, every letter read, every visitor logged. "You're not sleeping," Reyes said from the lower bunk. "Neither are you. Hard to sleep after what happened today." Reyes sat up. "You really meant it? What you said about killing them? Every word. That's insane. That's parenthood." Reyes was quiet for a moment. "I got a kid too. Daughter, 7 years old. Haven't seen her since I came in. What's her name? Isabella. Bella for short." His voice softened. "She probably doesn't even remember me. Her mother took her to California right after the trial, said she didn't want Bella growing up with a criminal father." "Do you write to her?" "Every week. She never writes back. I don't even know if she gets my letters." Darnell heard the pain in his cellmate's voice. The same pain he felt every moment he was separated from Maya. The same pain that drove fathers to do impossible things for their children. "When you get out," Darnell said, "you go find her. You tell her you're sorry. You tell her you love her. You do whatever it takes to be part of her life. What if she doesn't want me? Then you try again, and again, and again, until she understands that nothing, not prison, not distance, not time, could ever make you stop loving her." Reyes was silent. Then so quietly Darnell almost missed it. "Thank you." "For what?" "For reminding me why I need to survive this place." The next morning, Father O'Brien found Darnell in the chapel before sunrise. The priest's face was grave, but there was something else in his eyes, something that looked almost like hope. "I have news," O'Brien said, settling into the pew beside him. "About your daughter?" Darnell's hands tightened. "Is she safe?" "She's more than safe. She's fighting back." O'Brien pulled a folded newspaper from his robe. "This came out yesterday. I thought you should see it." The headline made Darnell's heart stop. FBI opens investigation into Atlanta businessman Victor Reeves. He read quickly, devouring every word. Federal agents had raided Reeves' offices, seized financial records, arrested 3 of his associates on corruption charges. The investigation was ongoing with more arrests expected. And there in the 3rd paragraph, a name that made his eyes blur with tears. The investigation was initiated based on evidence provided by Maya Washington, daughter of Darnell Washington, who was recently convicted on assault charges that sources say may have been politically motivated. "She did it," Darnell whispered. "She actually did it. She's not done yet." O'Brien leaned closer. "My contacts say she's been in protective custody since the FBI took over. They're keeping her safe while the investigation proceeds, but more importantly, they're looking into your case. The evidence she gathered suggests your trial was compromised." "Compromised how?" "Jury tampering, witness intimidation, evidence suppression. If even half of what she's claiming is true, your conviction could be overturned." Darnell closed his eyes. For the first time since he had rolled through Blackstone's gates, he allowed himself to feel something he had almost forgotten. Hope. "There's a catch," O'Brien continued. "The investigation will take time. Months, maybe longer. And in the meantime, you're still in here, still a target." "I can handle that." "Can you? Crusher and his allies are not going to give up. If anything, the news about Reeves will make them more desperate. Their outside support is crumbling. They're going to lash out at whatever target they can reach." "Let them come." "Darnell," O'Brien's voice sharpened. "Pride is a sin for a reason. You can't fight an entire prison." "I don't intend to fight them." Darnell looked at the priest. "I intend to change them." "Change them? These are hardened criminals, men who've killed without remorse." "So was I once." Darnell's voice carried the weight of memory. "I've done things in war that would horrify you, Father. Things I'll carry to my grave. But I changed. Not because someone forced me to, because someone showed me a better way." "Who, Heku?" "My father, my wife, my daughter." He touched the newspaper gently like a sacred relic. "And now I'm going to do the same for these men. The ones who want it. The ones who are ready." "That's a beautiful sentiment, but it won't stop a shiv in the dark." "No, it won't." Darnell smiled slightly. That's what the martial arts are for. Word of the FBI investigation spread through Blackstone like wildfire. By noon, every inmate knew that Victor Reeves was in trouble, that his network was crumbling, that the man who had been pulling strings from the outside was suddenly fighting for his own survival. The implications were obvious to anyone paying attention. Crusher Snake and El Diablo had lost their outside support. The money that funded their operations was frozen. The contacts who supplied their contraband were in custody. The protection they had enjoyed from corrupt officials was evaporating. They were isolated, vulnerable, desperate, and desperate men did desperate things. The attack came during lunch. Not against Darnell, against Jerome. The young man was carrying his tray across the mess hall when 3 of Crusher's soldiers intercepted him. They didn't speak, didn't threaten, just moved in perfect coordination like wolves cutting a deer from the herd. "You've been spending a lot of time with the wheelchair guy," one of them said, "learning his tricks." Jerome tried to back away, but they had him surrounded. "Crusher wants to send a message. You're going to help deliver it." "I don't want any trouble." Too late for that. The first punch caught Jerome in the stomach, doubling him over. The second snapped his head back. The third knocked him to the ground. Jerome curled into a ball, trying to protect himself, waiting for the beating that would leave him broken and bloody. It never came. Instead, he heard a crash, a scream, the sound of bodies hitting the floor. He looked up to find Marcus standing over him. Marcus, who had been one of Darnell's first students, who had practiced breathing exercises until he could stay calm in the face of any threat, who had learned to fight not with rage but with precision. 2 of Crusher's soldiers were already on the ground. The third was backing away, hands raised. "Jerome's off limits," Marcus said. His voice carried no anger, no fear, just absolute certainty. "Anyone touches him, they answer to all of us." The mess hall had gone silent. Inmates at every table watched as more of Darnell's students rose from their seats. Deshaun, Kevin, 15 others. They moved to form a protective circle around Jerome and Marcus. "You think you can take all of us?" the remaining soldier asked. "I think you should ask yourself if it's worth finding out." The standoff lasted 30 seconds. Then the soldier turned and walked away, muttering curses under his breath. Marcus helped Jerome to his feet. "You okay?" "I think so, yeah." Jerome touched his split lip. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Thank Sifu." "Shitty." Jerome looked across the mess hall to where Darnell sat in his wheelchair watching everything unfold. Their eyes met. Darnell nodded once, a small gesture that carried enormous meaning. His students were ready. They had learned to protect each other. The family he had built was standing on its own. That evening, 42 inmates gathered in a corner of the exercise yard, the largest class Darnell had ever taught inside Blackstone. Word had spread about what happened in the mess hall, about how Marcus had defended Jerome, about how a brotherhood of former victims had stood up to trained killers and made them back down. "Today was important," Darnell said, looking at each face in turn. "Not because we won a fight, but because we proved something to ourselves and to everyone watching." "What did we prove?" someone asked. "That we're not alone anymore. That we don't have to face this place as individuals, each of us weak and isolated and afraid. We face it together, as brothers." He paused, letting the words sink in. "The men who run this prison think power comes from fear, from violence, from making others smaller so they can feel big. They're wrong." "Then where does power come from?" "From connection, from trust, from knowing that when you fall, someone will catch you. When you're attacked, someone will stand beside you. When you're ready to give up, someone will remind you why you started." Marcus spoke up. "What happens when they come for us? Really come for us? Not 3 soldiers in a mess hall. All of them." "They might, probably will, eventually." Darnell's expression hardened. "And when that day comes, we'll be ready. Not because we're stronger than them, not because we're more violent, because we're more disciplined, more unified, more willing to sacrifice for each other." How do we prepare for that? The same way warriors have prepared for battle since the beginning of time. We train, we practice. We build our bodies and our minds until we're ready for anything. He rolled to the center of the group. "Today we start the next phase. You've learned to breathe, you've learned to think, now you learn to move." For the next hour, he taught them basic defensive techniques. Nothing flashy, nothing complicated. Simple movements that could stop an attack, create distance. Brischelt's buy time. The building blocks of everything that would come later. Some students picked it up quickly, others struggled, but all of them worked with an intensity that came from knowing their lives might depend on what they learned. When the session ended, Darnell called Jerome aside. "You did well today, in the mess hall." Jerome shook his head. "I didn't do anything. Marcus saved me. Marcus finished what you started." "I don't understand." "You didn't fight back. You didn't panic. You protected yourself and waited for help. That's exactly what I taught you to do." That felt like losing. It felt like surviving. There's a difference. Darnell gripped his shoulder. The goal isn't to win every fight. The goal is to get through every fight with your body and your soul intact. You did that today. Jerome was quiet for a moment. "Can I ask you something? Anything. The way you fight, the things you can do from that chair, how did you learn? Where did it come from?" Darnell was silent. The question touched something deep inside him, something he rarely talked about, something he had never shared with anyone except Maya. "My father," he said finally. "He was a boxer, Golden Gloves champion in his day. When I was a kid, he taught me everything he knew, not just about fighting, about life, about being a man." "Is he still alive?" "No, he died when I was 16, heart attack, dropped dead in the middle of training one day, gone before he hit the floor." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. He lived the way he wanted, died doing what he loved. That's more than most people can say." "Did he know what you would become?" Darnell smiled slightly. "He used to say I had a gift, not for violence, for teaching. He said the world had enough fighters. What it needed was more men who could show others how to find the fighter inside themselves." "Is that why you started the academy?" "Partly. Mostly it was because of what happened after my accident." His voice grew distant. "When I lost my legs, I thought I'd lost everything. My identity, my purpose, my reason for existing. I spent 2 years in a dark place, angry at the world, angry at myself, ready to give up." "What changed?" "My daughter. Maya was 18 when I hit bottom. She walked into my room one day, grabbed me by the shirt, and said something I'll never forget." "What did she say?" "She said, 'Dad, Mom is gone. You're all I have left. And I need you to stop feeling sorry for yourself and start being my father again. I don't care if you can walk. I don't care if you can fight. I just need you to be here. With me. For me." Darnell's eyes glistened. "That little girl, she saved my life. She reminded me that I wasn't just a soldier, wasn't just a fighter. I was a father. And fathers don't get to give up. Not ever. Not for any reason." Jerome wiped his eyes. "Destiny says stuff like that to me sometimes. When I call her from in here, she tells me to stop being sad, to come home soon, to be her brother again. Listen to her. She's smarter than both of us. I'm trying. Every day I'm trying. That's all any of us can do." The next week brought changes that no one expected. First, the warden announced new programs aimed at reducing violence. Meditation sessions, conflict resolution workshops, anger management classes, changes that bore an uncanny resemblance to what Darnell had been teaching informally for months. Second, 3 of Crusher's top lieutenants requested transfers to other cell blocks. They claimed it was for personal safety. Everyone knew the real reason they wanted no part of whatever was coming. Third, and most surprising of all, Snake Petrov requested a meeting with Darnell. They sat across from each other in a visitor's room, 2 guards watching through reinforced glass. Snake looked smaller somehow, diminished. The swagger was gone, replaced by something that might have been exhaustion. "I'm not here to fight," Snake said. "Not here to threaten. I'm here to talk." "So talk." "The FBI investigation is expanding. They're looking at everyone Reeves ever worked with, including people inside this prison." "You?" "Me, Crusher, El Diablo, others." Snake leaned forward. "Our outside support is gone. Our money is frozen. Half our soldiers are already cutting deals with the feds trying to save their own skins." "Sounds like your empire is crumbling." "It is, and we both know what that means." "Enlighten me." "It means war. Not the Cold War we've been fighting. Real war. Blood in the corridors, bodies in the yard, lockdowns that last for months." "And you want to prevent that?" Snake was quiet for a moment. "I've been inside for 18 years. Killed 7 men. Ordered the deaths of a dozen more. I've done things that would make most people sick." "I know. But I'm also tired. Tired of the violence. Tired of the fear. Tired of waiting for someone to shiv me in the shower because they want my spot at the top." "What are you proposing?" "A truce, not just between you and me, between all the factions. A chance to step back from the edge before we all go over." Darnell studied the man across from him. He saw the weariness, the resignation, but he also saw something else. something he had learned to recognize in soldiers who had seen too much combat. Regret. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't, not yet. Trust has to be earned, and I've done nothing to earn yours. Snake met his eyes. But I'm willing to try, if you are. And Crusher El Diablo. Crusher is a problem. His pride won't let him back down. He's going to start something whether I'm with him or not. What about El Diablo? Miguel's smarter than he looks. He'll go whichever way the wind blows. If you and I reach an agreement, he'll fall in line. So it comes down to Crusher. It always does. Darnell considered his options. The smart move was to reject the truce. Snake was a killer, a racist, a monster by any reasonable definition. Making peace with him meant legitimizing everything he had done. But war meant death. Not just for gang members, for innocent inmates caught in the crossfire. For young men like Jerome who had nothing to do with any of it. If I agree to this truce, Darnell said slowly, there are conditions. Name them. First, the threats against my daughter stop. Completely, permanently. Anyone who goes near her dies. Done. Second, your people leave my students alone. No intimidation, no recruitment, no retaliation for what happened in the mess hall. Agreed. Third, and this is the hard one. Darnell leaned forward. You start attending my classes. Snake blinked. What? You heard me. You want peace, you earn it. You sit with the men you've terrorized for years. You learn what I'm teaching. You show them that change is possible. That's insane. My own people will think I've gone soft. Your own people are already running to the feds. The ones who are left are looking for a reason to believe there's a better way. Darnell's voice hardened. You can be that reason. Or you can keep being the monster everyone expects. Your choice. The silence stretched between them. Snake's jaw worked. His fists clenched. Every instinct screamed at him to reject the offer, to maintain the image he had spent 18 years building. But images didn't matter anymore. Not when the Empire was burning. Fine, Snake said finally. I'll do it. You'll come to the classes. I said I'll do it. And Crusher. Crusher is your problem. I'll keep my people out of it, but I can't stop him from doing whatever he's planning. What is he planning? Snake stood to leave. At the door, he paused. Something big. Something that's going to change everything. He looked back at Darnell. Watch your back, Washington. The storm is coming, and it's coming soon. 3 days after the meeting with Snake, the storm arrived. Darnell was in the yard with his students when the alarm went off. Not the usual warning siren, something deeper, more urgent, the sound that meant total lockdown. Guards rushed toward Cell Block D, weapons drawn. Inmates scattered in every direction. Chaos erupted across the facility, but through the confusion, Darnell saw something that made his blood freeze. Crusher Jenkins walking calmly toward him, alone, unarmed, smiling. Hello, Washington. Darnell's hands tightened on his wheel rims. What did you do? Just evened the odds a little. Crusher stopped 10 feet away. You've got your army, I've got mine. Seemed only fair to let them meet each other. What are you talking about? Right about now, my boys are paying visits to every single one of your students. Every cell, every corner, all at once. Crusher's smile widened. Let's see how well your meditation exercises work when there's a knife at their throats. Darnell's vision went red. Call them off. Or what? You'll break my wrist again. Go ahead. It won't save them. The world seemed to slow down. Darnell heard screaming in the distance, heard the clash of metal on metal, heard the sounds of battle erupting across the prison. His students, his family, under attack because of him. This is between us, Darnell said, his voice barely above a whisper. Leave them out of it. It stopped being between us the moment you started building your little revolution. You want to change things. You want to tear down everything we've built. Crusher spread his arms wide. Then watch what happens when we fight back. The choice was impossible. Stay here and confront Crusher, or race to help his students. He couldn't do both. Darnell closed his eye. For a moment he was back in Fallujah, back in the chaos of combat, back in the place where impossible decisions had to be made in split seconds. And like always, he made his choice. Jerome, he called out. 20 feet away, Jerome turned from his position near the weight benches. His face was pale, his hands were shaking, but his eyes were clear. Yes, Sifu. Lead them, fight together, protect each other, do what I taught you. Jerome's jaw tightened. What about you? Darnell looked at Crusher. I have something to finish. Jerome stood frozen for half a second. The weight of what Darnell had just asked pressed down on him like a physical force. Lead them. 2 words that changed everything. 2 words that made him responsible for the lives of men he had only known for weeks. Then he moved. Marcus Deshawn. On me, Jerome's voice cut through the chaos. He didn't recognize the sound of it, didn't recognize the authority it carried. But the men responded. They gathered around him as guards rushed past and alarms screamed overhead. What's the plan, chump? Marcus asked, his fists already clenched. We stay together. We find our brothers. We fight as one. Jerome looked at each face. Remember what Sifu taught us? Breathe, think, move. Don't let fear control you. There's got to be 30 of them out there. And there's 50 of us, but only if we're together. Jerome pointed toward cell block D. That's where most of our people are. That's where we go. They moved as a unit, 8 men who had learned to trust each other through weeks of training. Behind them, the yard descended into violence. But Jerome didn't look back, couldn't look back. Every step forward was a step toward the men who needed him. Darnell watched them go. Pride swelled in his chest, mixed with something darker. Fear, not for himself, for them, for all of them. Touching, Crusher said. You've trained them well? Let's see if it matters. Darnell turned his wheelchair to face his enemy fully. This didn't have to happen. Yes, it did. The moment you rolled through those gates, this became inevitable. Crusher began circling slowly, predator studying prey. You think you're different from me. You think your little philosophy makes you better. I think we've both made choices. I'm trying to help men make better ones. And I'm trying to show them reality. The world is cruel. Prison is crueler. The only way to survive is to be the cruelest thing in it. That's not survival. That's just dying slowly while taking everyone else down with you. Crusher stopped circling. You know what your problem is, Washington. You still believe in people. You still think they can change. They can. I've seen it. You've seen what they want you to see. The moment things get hard, the moment their survival is on the line, they'll turn on you. Every single one. Maybe, maybe not. Darnell adjusted his grip on his wheel rims. Either way, I'd rather die believing in them than live like you. Crusher's face twisted. Then let me help you with that. He charged. The first attack was pure aggression, a wild haymaker designed to end the fight before it started. Darnell rolled backward, letting the punch sail past his face, then pivoted and drove his elbow into Crusher's kidney as the big man's momentum carried him forward. Crusher grunted but didn't go down. He spun, caught the wheelchair's armrest, and yanked. The chair tilted dangerously, threatening to spill Darnell onto the concrete. But Darnell had trained for this. Trained for the moment when someone tried to weaponize his disability against him. He shifted his weight, caught the wheel with his hand, and used the spin to build momentum. His fist connected with Crusher's jaw like a hammer. Blood sprayed. Crusher stumbled, but he didn't fall. That all you got, cripple? I'm just getting started. They clashed again. Crusher's size and strength against Darnell's speed and precision. Fists flew, bodies twisted. The yard around them emptied as inmates fled the escalating violence. Crusher managed to grab Darnell's shirt, pulling him close. Your daughter's next. Even if you kill me, she's dead. My boys on the outside will make sure of it. Darnell's blood went cold, then hot, then beyond hot into something that had no name. You shouldn't have said that. His hands shot up, finding the pressure points on Crusher's arms that he had memorized decades ago. He pressed, hard. Crusher screamed and released his grip. Before the big man could recover, Darnell had already reversed position. His arc locked around Crusher's throat. His legs, useless for walking, wrapped around Crusher's waist like a python. The wheelchair lay on its side, forgotten. Call them off, Darnell whispered in Crusher's ear. Call off your men, now. Crusher struggled, thrashed, tried every technique he had ever learned to break a chokehold. None of them worked. Can't breathe. That's the point. Darnell tightened his grip. Call them off, or I end this permanently. You won't kill me. You're not. I'm not what capable. Darnell's voice dropped to something barely human. I've killed 17 men in combat, watched the life leave their eyes, and felt nothing. You think I care about adding one more to the list? Crusher's struggles weakened. His face turned purple, his eyes bulged. Last chance, call them off. Oh, okay. Darnell loosened his grip just enough for Crusher to breathe. Louder! Stand down! Crusher screamed. Everybody stand down! The words echoed across the yard. Within seconds, guards were rushing toward them, finally arriving after the delay that Crusher's bribes had arranged. They pulled Darnell off their target, secured both men, called for medical, but Darnell barely noticed. His eyes searched the chaos for his students, for Jerome, for any sign of what had happened while he fought. What he saw made his heart stop. Bodies on the ground, blood on the concrete, men being carried toward the infirmary. Some of them were wearing the colors of Crusher's gang. Most of them weren't. Jerome found Darnell in the medical wing 6 hours later. The young man's face was bruised. His left eye was swelling shut. His knuckles were raw and bleeding, but he was alive. He was standing, and he was smiling. "We held them off," Jerome said, his voice cracking with exhaustion and pride. "Not everyone. We lost some. Marcus took a bad hit to the ribs. Deshawn's got a concussion, but we held. How many? 12 of us in the infirmary, none dead." Jerome sat down heavily on the edge of Darnell's bed. 6 of their guys aren't getting up anytime soon." 6? "We didn't go looking for trouble, but when they came at us..." Jerome shook his head. "It was exactly like you said. We breathed. We stayed calm. We fought together. And it worked. It actually worked." Darnell reached out and gripped Jerome's shoulder. "You led them. That's what made the difference." "I just did what you taught me." "No, you did more than that. You became what I knew you could be." Darnell's eyes glistened. "I'm proud of you, son. More than you know." Jerome broke down. The tears came without warning, weeks of fear and tension, and desperate hope flooding out in great heaving sobs. Darnell pulled him close, holding him the way a father holds a son, letting him cry against his shoulder. "I was so scared," Jerome whispered. "The whole time. I was terrified." "I know. I thought I was going to die. Thought we all were." "But you didn't. You faced the fear. You kept moving. That's what courage is." "Is it always like this? This hard?" Sometimes it's harder." Darnell released him gently. "But you survived, and you helped others survive. That's something nobody can ever take from you." The door opened. Sergeant Williams entered, his face an unreadable mask. He looked at Jerome, then at Darnell, then back at Jerome. "Give us a minute." Jerome wiped his eyes and stood. "Yes, sir." When they were alone, Williams pulled a chair close to Darnell's bed. He sat down slowly, like a man carrying a heavy weight. 14 inmates hospitalized, 3 in critical condition, property damage in the hundreds of thousands. He paused. "And somehow you're in the middle of all of it." "I didn't start this." "No, you didn't." Williams rubbed his face. "But you finished it. The way you handled Crusher. That chokehold. Another few seconds, and he would have been dead." "I know. Why didn't you kill him?" "God knows he deserved it." Darnell considered the question. "Because that's not who I am anymore. Because I have a daughter who needs me to be better than my worst instincts. Because killing him would have made me exactly what he said I was." "He threatened your family." "Yes." "And you still showed mercy." "Not mercy, restraint." Darnell met Williams' eyes. "There's a difference." Williams was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked Darnell more than anything that had happened that day. He laughed. 22 years in this job. I thought I'd seen everything. Thought I knew what inmates were capable of." He shook his head. "You proved me wrong. You and your students. You showed me something I'd forgotten was possible." "What's that?" "Hope." Williams stood. "The warden wants to see you tomorrow. Officially, you're probably looking at a stint in solitary for your role in today's incident. And unofficially, half the guards are talking about how you stopped a full-scale riot from becoming a massacre, how your people protected weaker inmates when they didn't have to, how you choked out the most dangerous man in this prison and then let him live." "What does that mean for me?" Williams walked to the door. He paused with his hand on the handle. "It means things are about to change around here, Washington, and I have a feeling you're going to be at the center of it." The next 3 weeks transformed Blackstone in ways that no one had predicted. Crusher Jenkins was transferred to a maximum security facility 200 miles away. His organization collapsed within days. The soldiers who remained either requested protective custody or quietly joined other factions. Snake Petrov kept his word. He attended Darnell's classes, sitting in the back, saying nothing, watching everything. At first, the other inmates didn't know what to make of it, the leader of the Aryan Brotherhood learning meditation from a black man in a wheelchair. But Snake's presence sent a message. If he could be there, anyone could. El Diablo followed a week later, bringing half his lieutenants with him. Not because he had found religion or experienced some great moral awakening, because he was a survivor, and survivors adapted to changing circumstances. The classes grew. 40 students became 60. 60 became 100. Men who had spent years at each other's throats now sat side by side, learning to breathe, to think, to control the rage that had defined their lives. "I don't understand it," Reyes said one night lying in his bunk. "A month ago, these guys wanted to kill each other. Now they're doing yoga together. It's not yoga." "Whatever, you know what I mean." Darnell smiled slightly. "People want to believe in something. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. The gangs offered that, but at a terrible price. I'm offering it for free. You think it'll last after you're gone." "That's the question, isn't it?" Darnell stared at the ceiling. "That's why I'm not just teaching them techniques. I'm teaching them to teach others, building something that can survive without me." "Why does that matter so much to you?" "Because I spent my whole life learning from men who came before me. My father, my drill sergeants, my martial arts masters. They passed something down to me, and now it's my turn to pass it down to someone else." "Legacy. Something like that." Reyes was quiet for a moment. "I've been thinking about what you said. About my daughter. About finding her when I get out. And I think I'm going to do it. Even if she hates me. Even if she doesn't want to see me. I have to try." "That's good. You inspired me." Reyes laughed softly. "Never thought I'd say that about a cellmate, especially one in a wheelchair. The wheelchair is just a chair. What matters is what's inside it." "Deep. My wife used to say that, before she died." "You still miss her?" "Every day." Darnell's voice softened. "But I carry her with me. In everything I do. Every life I touch. Every person I help. That's how love works. It doesn't end when someone dies. It transforms into something else. Something that keeps going." The letter from Maya arrived on a Tuesday. Father O'Brien brought it personally, his weathered face bright with something Darnell hadn't seen before. Joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy. "Read it, Chulk," the priest said, pressing the envelope into Darnell's hands. "Read it now. Dear Dad, it's over." Victor Reeves pleaded guilty to 7 federal charges, including bribery, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. His network is destroyed. His assets are seized. He's going away for a very long time. But that's not the best part. The FBI finished their investigation into your case. They found evidence of jury tampering, witness intimidation, and prosecutorial misconduct at every level. The federal court has agreed to review your conviction. Dad, they're saying it could be overturned. Not might be. Will be. The evidence is overwhelming. I'm working with a team of lawyers to expedite the process. They think we could have you out within 6 months. Maybe sooner. You're coming home, Dad. You're finally coming home. I love you so much. I've never stopped fighting, never stopped believing. And now it's paying off. Stay safe, stay strong. I'll see you soon. All my love. Maya Darnell read the letter 3 times. His hands trembled, his vision blurred. Emotions he had buried for months came flooding to the surface. "Is this real?" he whispered. "It's real." Father O'Brien smiled. "I confirmed it with my contacts this morning. The legal process is moving faster than anyone expected. The judge assigned to your case is known for quick decisions when the evidence is clear. 6 months. Maybe less." Darnell looked at the letter again, at his daughter's handwriting, at the words she had written with love and hope and fierce determination. He had raised her to be strong, to fight for what was right, to never give up no matter how impossible the odds seemed. She had learned the lesson better than he ever imagined. "I need to tell them," Darnell said, his voice steadying. "My students, they need to know what's happening. Why? Because this changes everything. They've been following me, trusting me, building something around me. If I'm leaving, they need to be ready to continue without me." And will they? Darnell thought about Jerome, about Marcus, about all the men who had found something in themselves they never knew existed, men who had been victims becoming protectors, predators becoming teachers, enemies becoming brothers. "Yes," he said finally. "They will." The gathering that evening was the largest yet. Over 100 men crowded into the corner of the yard that had become their unofficial meeting place. They came from every block, every faction, every corner of the prison. They came because they had heard the news, and they needed to hear it from him. "Most of you have probably already heard," Darnell began. "My conviction is being reviewed. There's a good chance I'll be leaving soon." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some faces showed happiness for him. Others showed fear. Fear of what would happen when he was gone. I know what you're thinking. You're wondering if this was all for nothing. If everything we've built will fall apart the moment I roll out those gates. He paused, letting the silence stretch. I'm not going to lie to you. It might. Change is hard. Maintaining it is harder. The moment I'm gone, there will be people who try to drag you back to the old ways. People who profit from your fear. People who need you to be victims so they can feel powerful. So what do we do? Someone called out. You do what I've been teaching you all along. You breathe. You think. Now stand together. Darnell's voice strengthened. And more importantly, you teach. Every single one of you has learned something valuable in these past weeks. Knowledge that could change someone else's life the way it changed yours. Pass it on. What if we're not ready? Nobody's ever ready, not really. Darnell smiled. I wasn't ready when my father died. Wasn't ready when I lost my legs. Wasn't ready when they threw me in this place. But I kept going anyway. Because the alternative was giving up. And giving up was never an option. Jerome stepped forward. I'll do it. I'll keep the classes going, whatever it takes. So will I, Marcus added. One by one, other voices joined. Men pledging to continue the work, to maintain the community, to be for others what Darnell had been for them. This is what I wanted, Darnell said, his voice thick with emotion. This is what I've been building toward. Not a cult of personality, not a following that depends on one man, a movement, a brotherhood that exists because of the values we share, not because of who's leading it. But we still need you, Deshawn protested. You're the one who started all this. Every beginning needs an end. Every teacher eventually steps aside for his students. Darnell looked at the faces around him. You don't need me anymore. You need each other. You need the things you've learned. You need the men you've become. He rolled to the center of the gathering. When I came to this place, I expected to survive, to keep my head down, to do my time and go home. I never expected to find what I found here. Never expected to meet men who would change my life as much as I changed theirs. His voice caught. He pushed through. You gave me purpose again. After everything I'd lost, you gave me a reason to keep fighting, and for that I will be grateful until the day I die. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Jerome started clapping. Marcus joined. Then Deshawn. Then the rest, 100 men applauding a man in a wheelchair who had shown them that strength had nothing to do with legs and everything to do with heart. Darnell bowed his head and let the moment wash over him. Let himself feel the love and respect of men he had helped transform. Let himself believe for just a moment that everything would be okay. The future was uncertain. The challenges ahead were immense. But right now, in this moment, surrounded by brothers he had forged through struggle and sacrifice, Darnell Washington knew that his work here was not ending. It was just beginning to bear fruit. The weeks that followed tested everything Darnell had built. 3 days after his announcement, a new inmate arrived at Blackstone. His name was Raymond Cross, and he came with a reputation that preceded him like a dark cloud, convicted of killing 2 men in a bar fight, connected to criminal organizations across 3 states. And most importantly, he was Victor Reeves' nephew. Darnell heard about him before he saw him. The whispers spread through the cell blocks like wildfire. Reeves had sent one final soldier, one last attempt at revenge, before the walls closed in completely. You need to be careful, Reyes warned that night. This guy isn't like Crusher. He's not looking for power or territory. He's looking for blood. Your blood. I know. So what are you going to do? The same thing I've always done. Wait, watch, be ready. That's not enough this time. Cross has killed before. He'll do it again without thinking twice. Then I'll have to make sure he doesn't get the chance. Raymond Cross found Darnell in the yard the next morning. The man was younger than expected, maybe 30, with cold eyes and a body built for violence. He walked with the loose confidence of someone who had nothing left to lose. So you're the one, Cross said, stopping 5 feet away. The cripple who destroyed my uncle. I didn't destroy your uncle. He destroyed himself. That's not how my family sees it. Your family's perception isn't my concern. Cross smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. You know why I'm here. I have an idea. Then you know how this ends. Darnell met his gaze without flinching. I know how you think it ends, but I've been wrong before. Maybe you have too. Wrong about what? About who you are. About what you're capable of becoming. Darnell gestured to the men scattered around the yard. Every person here thought they knew their limits, thought they were defined by their worst moments. I showed them something different. Save the sermon for someone who cares. I'm not preaching. I'm offering you a choice. What choice? The same one I offer everyone. You can be what they made you, what your uncle made you, what prison wants you to be, or you can be something else, something better. Cross laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. You don't know anything about me. I know you came here to kill me. I know that even if you succeed, it won't bring your uncle back, won't undo what he did, won't make your family whole again. Darnell's voice softened. I know you're angry. I know you're hurting. I know you think violence is the only answer because it's the only answer anyone ever gave you. Shut up. But there are other answers, other ways. I could show you if you let me. I said shut up. Cross lunged forward, his fist cocked. But before he could throw the punch, 3 of Darnell's students materialized around him. Jerome on the left, Marcus on the right, Deshawn directly behind. Easy, Jerome said quietly. Nobody needs to get hurt here. Get out of my way. Can't do that. Marcus shifted his weight, ready to move. Sifu is family. You threaten family, you deal with all of us. Cross looked at the men surrounding him, calculated the odds. For a long moment, the yard held its breath. Then he stepped back. This isn't over, he said, his eyes locked on Darnell. You understand me. This will never be over. I understand. But maybe someday you'll understand something too. What's that? That the war you're fighting isn't with me, it's with yourself, and that's a war you can never win through violence. Cross turned and walked away. But Darnell saw something in his eyes. Something beneath the anger and the hate. Something that looked almost like doubt. It was a beginning. Father O'Brien found Darnell in the chapel that evening. The priest's face was troubled. Whatever news he carried, it wasn't good. The review process has hit a complication, O'Brien said, settling into the pew beside him. What kind of complication? Political. Some of Victor Reeves' former associates are fighting back. They've hired lawyers, filed motions, done everything possible to slow the process down. Can they stop it? No, the evidence against them is too strong, but they can delay it, significantly. How long? Months? Maybe a year. The words hit Darnell like a physical blow. A year. Another year in this place. Another year away from Maya. Another year of uncertainty and danger and fighting battles that should never have been his to fight. I see, he said quietly. I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you wanted to hear. It's not about what I want. It never has been. Darnell looked at the crucifix hanging above the altar. Can Maya handle another year of this? She's stronger than you think, and she's not alone. The FBI is protecting her. The legal team is working around the clock. This delay is frustrating, but it's not fatal. And Cross, what do I do about a man who wants to kill me for 12 more months? You do what you've always done. You survive. You teach. You build something that matters. What if I can't? What if this is the thing that finally breaks me? Father O'Brien was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of decades spent counseling broken men. Do you remember what you told me when we first met, about why you keep fighting even when things seem impossible? I said it was for Maya. You said it was for love. Love for your daughter. Love for your students. Love for the man you want to be. The priest leaned forward. That love doesn't disappear because the timeline changed. If anything, it becomes more important, more necessary. You're asking me to be patient. I'm asking you to be faithful, to believe that the justice you're seeking will come, even if it doesn't come as quickly as you hoped. Darnell closed his eyes. He thought about Sarah, about the 2 years she fought cancer before finally surrendering, about the grace she showed in those final months, never complaining, never giving up hope, never letting the darkness win. If she could face death with dignity, he could face another year of prison. Okay, he said finally, tell Maya I'm not giving up. Tell her to keep fighting, and tell her, his voice caught, tell her I love her more than anything in this world. I will. And Father, yes, thank you for everything, for being the one light in this dark place. O'Brien smiled. That's not me, that's you. I'm just here to remind you of it sometimes. The news about the delay spread quickly. Some of Darnell's students took it hard. They had invested hope in his release, believing that his freedom would somehow validate everything they had learned. Now that hope was deferred, and deferred hope could be dangerous. Jerome found Darnell alone in his cell 2 days later. The young man's face was troubled. People are talking, Jerome said. Some of them are saying you're never getting out. that Reeves' people are too powerful, that the system is rigged against you. What do you think? I think they're scared that if you can't beat the system, none of us can. They might be right. Don't say that. Why not? It's true. Darnell looked at Jerome directly. I've never promised anyone that I have all the answers, that I can fix everything, that justice will always prevail. Then what have you been teaching us? How to survive, how to maintain your dignity when everything is trying to take it away, how to find strength when you have every reason to be weak. Darnell's voice hardened. Those lessons don't depend on whether I get out tomorrow or never. They stand on their own. But, no buts? Listen to me. Darnell gripped Jerome's arm. The whole point of everything I've done here is to build something that doesn't need me. If my freedom is the only thing holding this together, then I've failed. Then everything we've built is worthless. That's not true. Then prove it. Show the others that this isn't about me. It's about them, about who they're becoming, about the choices they're making every single day. Jerome was quiet for a long moment. You're testing me. I'm trusting you. There's a difference. What if I can't do it? What if I'm not strong enough? You are. You proved that when you led the defense against Crusher's men. You proved it every day you stood up when it would have been easier to stay down. Darnell released his arm. The question isn't whether you're strong enough. The question is whether you believe it. Jerome left the cell with his shoulders straighter than when he had entered, and Darnell allowed himself a moment of pride. The boy was becoming a man. The student was becoming a teacher. Whatever happened to him, that transformation would endure. Raymond Cross sought Darnell out again 3 weeks later. The circumstances were different this time. No threats, no posturing, just a man standing uncertainly outside the library looking like he had something to say, but no idea how to say it. Can we talk? Cross asked. We're talking now. Privately, please. The word caught Darnell off guard. Please, not a word that came naturally to men like Cross. Not a word that fit the image he projected. Follow me. They found a quiet corner in the back of the library away from the few inmates browsing the shelves. Cross sat across from Darnell, his hands clasped together, his eyes fixed on the table. I've been watching you, Cross said. Watching your classes, watching how your people interact. And I don't understand it. These men should hate each other, blacks and whites, gang members and loners, predators and victims. They should be at each other's throats. But they're not. No, they're not. Cross looked up. How do you do it? I don't do anything. They do it themselves. I just show them what's possible. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. Darnell leaned forward. You want to know the secret? There is no secret. People want to be better than they are. They want to believe in something. They want to feel like their lives have meaning beyond survival. Not everyone. Everyone. Even you. Cross flinched. You don't know what I want. I know you came here to kill me, and you haven't done it. Why? The question hung in the air. Cross opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I don't know, he admitted finally. I keep telling myself tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll do it. Tomorrow I'll finish what my uncle started. But tomorrow comes and I just don't. Maybe because you know it won't change anything. Maybe. Cross's voice dropped. Or maybe because I'm tired. Tired of being angry all the time. Tired of carrying this weight that never gets lighter no matter how many people I hurt. That's the first honest thing you've said since you got here. My uncle raised me. Did you know that? Cross stared at his hands. My parents were both addicts. OD'd when I was 6. Victor took me in, gave me a home, taught me everything I know. Including how to hate. Including how to survive. How to be strong. How to never let anyone see you weak. Cross laughed bitterly. He never taught me what to do when the strength runs out. When there's nothing left but the hate. What do you want, Raymond? The use of his first name seemed to startle Cross. For a moment, his mask slipped and Darnell saw the scared little boy underneath. The orphan who had built walls around his heart so thick that even he couldn't breach them anymore. I want it to stop, Cross whispered. The anger, the violence, the feeling like I'm drowning all the time. I want to breathe. I want to sleep without nightmares. I want to look in the mirror and not hate what I see. Those are big wants. I know, and I don't even know where to start. Start by showing up. Tomorrow, yard time, my classes. Cross's head snapped up. Your students will never accept me. They know why I'm here. My students have learned that people can change. That's the whole point of what we do. Darnell held his gaze. The question is whether you're willing to prove them right. What if I can't? What if I'm too broken? Nobody's too broken, believe me. I've seen men worse off than you find their way back. Darnell reached across the table and placed his hand on Cross's arm. But it has to be your choice. Nobody can make it for you. Nobody can walk the path, but you. Cross looked at the hand on his arm. Something shifted in his eyes. Something that might have been the first glimmer of hope he had felt in years. Okay, he said. I'll try. That's all anyone can ask. The reaction when Raymond Cross joined the next class was exactly what Darnell expected. Shock, anger, fear. His students had heard the stories. They knew what Cross had come here to do. What's he doing here? Marcus demanded, stepping between Cross and the group. He's joining us. Like hell he is. This guy wants to kill you. He did. I'm not sure he does anymore. Darnell rolled to the center of the gathering. Everyone has a choice. That's what I've always taught. We don't judge people by what they were. We judge them by what they choose to become. This is different. How is it different from Snake being here, from El Diablo, from any of you who came to these classes after spending years hurting people? The question struck home. Marcus glanced at Snake, who sat in his usual spot at the back. The former gang leader met his eyes and shrugged. He's got a point, Snake said. I've done worse than Cross, a lot worse. If you could accept me, you can accept him. This isn't about acceptance, Deshawn argued. This is about safety. What happens when he snaps, when his uncle's conditioning kicks in? Then we deal with it, together. Darnell's voice hardened. But we don't reject someone who's asking for help. Not ever. That's not who we are. Jerome stepped forward. He looked at Cross for a long moment. Then he extended his hand. Welcome to the family. Cross stared at the offered hand like it might bite him. Then slowly, hesitantly, he took it. Thank you, he said. I don't deserve this. Neither did any of us. That's the point. The session that followed was unlike any Darnell had led before. The tension was palpable. Every eye watched Cross. Every movement was scrutinized. One wrong gesture, one threatening word, and the fragile peace would shatter. But Cross did nothing wrong. He sat. He listened. He followed the breathing exercises with clumsy determination. He asked no questions and offered no comments. When the session ended, he approached Darnell alone. That was hard, Cross admitted, sitting there while everyone waited for me to explode. It'll get easier. Will it? Eventually, the key is consistency. Show up, every time, even when you don't want to, even when every instinct tells you to go back to what you know. And if I fail, then you get up and try again. That's all any of us can do. Cross nodded slowly. My uncle said failure was unacceptable, that real men don't make mistakes. Your uncle was wrong about a lot of things. Yeah. Cross's voice broke. Yeah, he was. The transformation happened slowly, day by day, session by session. The walls Cross had built began to crack. Not crumble, just crack. Small fissures that let in light that had been blocked out for decades. He started talking during classes, sharing pieces of his story, opening up about the violence he had witnessed as a child, the things his uncle had made him do, the guilt that had been eating him alive since before he could remember. The other students listened. Some of them had similar stories, similar wounds. They recognized the pain because they carried it themselves. Community formed around shared suffering. Brotherhood grew from mutual understanding, and Raymond Cross, who had come to Blackstone as an assassin, began transforming into something nobody expected. A healer. It happened during a fight in Cell Block C. 2 inmates from rival factions had gone at each other with homemade weapons. Blood was already flowing when Cross arrived. Without thinking, he stepped between them. Stop! The word carried authority he didn't know he possessed. Both combatants froze, not because they feared him, but because they recognized him. Everyone knew Raymond Cross. Everyone knew what he had been. And everyone knew what he was becoming. This isn't worth dying for, Cross said. Whatever started this, whatever you think you're proving, it's not worth it. Get out of the way. No, Cross spread his arms wide. You want to keep fighting? You go through me first. The moment stretched. Guards were coming. Time was running out. But in that suspended instant, something shifted. The first inmate lowered his weapon, then the second. Good, Cross said. Now walk away, both of you, and think about whether this is really who you want to be. They walked, and Cross stood there trembling, amazed at what he had just done. When he told Darnell about it that evening, his eyes were wet. "I didn't plan it," Cross said. "I just saw them fighting and something inside me snapped, but not like before, not into violence, into something else. Compassion. Is that what this is? What did it feel like?" Cross struggled to find words. "Like I mattered, like what I did actually meant something. Like for the first time in my life, I wasn't just destroying, I was building. That's what it feels like to be part of something bigger than yourself. I didn't know it could feel like this. Most people don't. They spend their whole lives searching for meaning in all the wrong places. Power, money, control. They never realize that meaning comes from service, from sacrifice, from giving yourself to something that matters." Cross wiped his eyes. "I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For coming here to kill you, for the hate, for everything I thought I was. You don't owe me anything. You owe yourself. And you're paying that debt every day you choose to be better than you were yesterday. How do you do it? Stay so calm, so sure, after everything you've been through." Darnell thought about the question, thought about Sarah and Maya, about the accident that took his legs, about the injustice that took his freedom, about all the things that should have broken him but didn't. "I'm not calm," he said finally, "and I'm not sure. Every day I doubt myself. Every day I wonder if I'm strong enough to keep going. Every day I have to make the choice all over again." "Then how?" "Because my daughter is out there fighting for me, because my students are counting on me, because my wife died believing I would never give up and I refuse to prove her wrong. Love. That's what it comes down to, always. Love is the only thing stronger than hate, the only thing that can transform pain into purpose." Cross was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. "I never had that. Love. My uncle called it weakness. Said it made you vulnerable. Said the only way to survive was to need no one. He was wrong. I'm starting to understand that." "Then you're further along than you think." News came from Maya 3 days later. The legal delays had been overcome. The federal court had scheduled a hearing for the following month. All indications pointed toward a full exoneration. Darnell read the letter alone in his cell. His hands trembled. His vision blurred with tears he didn't try to hide. "Good news," Reyes asked from the lower bunk. "The best. I'm going home." "When?" "Maybe 6 weeks, maybe sooner." Reyes climbed down and stood in front of Darnell's wheelchair. For a moment, neither man spoke. Then Reyes did something he had never done before. He hugged him. "Thank you," Reyes whispered, "for everything. For making me believe I could be a better man. For showing me that my daughter is worth fighting for. You did the work. I just pointed the way. Without you, I would have given up, died in here angry and alone. You gave me a reason to live. Then make it count. When you get out, when you find Isabella, make every moment count." "I will, I promise." The final weeks passed quickly. Darnell intensified his training of Jerome and the other leaders. Every lesson he had ever learned was passed on. Every technique, every principle, everything he knew about building men up instead of tearing them down. Jerome absorbed it all with desperate intensity. "I'm not ready, he admitted one evening, "to lead without you. You're more ready than you know." "How can you be sure?" "Because I see myself in you, the same hunger, the same heart, the same refusal to accept that things can't be better." Darnell gripped Jerome's shoulder. "You're going to make mistakes. Everyone does. But you're going to learn from them, grow from them, become someone your sister will be proud of." "Destiny writes to me now, every week. She says she's counting the days until I come home." "How many days?" 18 months. "That's going to feel like forever." "I know, but for the first time, I believe I can make it, because of what you taught me, because of what we built together. The brotherhood will sustain you. Lean on it when you're weak. Strengthen it when you're strong." "I will, I promise." The hearing happened on a gray morning in early spring. Maya testified. The FBI presented evidence. Victor Reeves' lawyers tried everything to undermine the case, but the truth was too strong. The judge's ruling came down like a thunderclap. Conviction overturned. All charges dismissed. Darnell Washington was a free man. He received the news in a phone call from his daughter. Her voice was raw with joy and tears. "You're coming home, Dad. It's over. It's finally over." "I know, baby. I know. I never stopped believing. Not for 1 second." Neither did I. Because of you. Because you never let me give up. When do they release you? Tomorrow. They're processing the paperwork now. I'll be there. First thing, waiting at the gates. I'll be looking for you. I love you, Dad. I love you too, Maya, more than words can say. That night, Darnell gathered his students one final time. Over 150 men stood in the darkness of the yard, their faces illuminated by the glow of distant lights. Tomorrow I leave this place, unbreakable, he said, but I'm not leaving you, not really. Everything I know is now inside you. Everything I've built lives on through you. He looked at each face in turn. Jerome, Marcus, Deshaun, Snake, El Diablo, Reyes, Cross, all the others who had found something in themselves they never knew existed. Remember what I've taught you. Remember who you've become. And when the world tries to drag you back to what you were, remember this moment. Remember the brothers standing beside you. Remember that you're never alone. Jerome stepped forward. In his hands he held a small object, a wooden carving of a wheelchair crudely made but crafted with obvious love. We made this for you, son, Jerome said. All of us, to remember. Darnell took the carving and held it close. Something in his chest cracked open. All the emotion he had been holding back flooded out. This is the greatest gift I've ever received, he whispered. I'll treasure it forever. Will you come back, be a correct to visit? As often as they'll let me, and when you get out... He looked at each of them. When any of you get out, you come find me. The Washington School of Martial Arts will always have a place for you. Is that a promise? That's a promise, from me to you, from family to family. The night ended with embraces, with tears, with farewells that carried the weight of everything they had survived together. And when the sun rose the next morning, Darnell Washington rolled toward the gates of Blackstone Federal Penitentiary for the last time, not as a prisoner, as a free man. The gates opened slowly, grinding metal against metal, a sound Darnell had heard 1,000 times, but never from this side. He rolled forward, his hands steady on the wheel rims, his heart pounding in his chest. Sunlight hit his face. Real sunlight. Not the filtered version that reached the prison yard, pure, unobstructed, free. And there she was. Maya stood 20 feet away, her hands clasped together, the tears streaming down her face. She looked older than he remembered. Wiser. The girl who had sent him off to prison had become a woman while he was gone. Dad? The word broke something inside him. He rolled toward her as fast as his arms could move. She ran the remaining distance. And when they collided, when her arms wrapped around him and his wrapped around her, the world stopped spinning. You're here, Maya whispered into his shoulder. You're really here. I'm here, baby. I'm home. They stayed like that for a long time. Father and daughter, survivor and savior. Two people who had refused to give up on each other even when everything said they should. Finally, Maya pulled back. Her eyes searched his face, cataloging every new line, every gray hair, every mark that prison had left on him. You look different, she said. I am different. Good different or bad different? Darnell smiled. Ask me again in a year. The drive back to Atlanta took 4 hours. Maya had rented a car for the occasion, something comfortable with room for his wheelchair. She drove while he watched the world scroll past his window. Tell me everything, she said. Everything that happened in there. So he told her, about Crusher and the first confrontation in the yard, about Father O'Brien and the chapel conversations, about Jerome and the students who had become his family, about Snake and El Diablo and the impossible alliances he had forged, about Raymond Cross and the transformation that nobody expected. Maya listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for several miles. You changed them, she finally said. All of them. They changed themselves. I just showed them it was possible. That's not nothing, Dad. That's everything. It didn't feel like everything. Most days it just felt like survival. Survival can be revolutionary, especially in a place designed to break people down. Darnell looked at his daughter, really looked at her. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. Your mother. Both of you. Maya reached over and squeezed his hand. Mom taught me to love. You taught me to fight. Together you made me who I am. The Washington School of Martial Arts looked exactly the same. The same brick building on the corner of Madison and 5th. The same faded sign above the door. The same worn steps leading up to the entrance. But everything felt different. Darnell sat in his wheelchair outside, staring at the place he had built from nothing, The place where he had rebuilt himself after the accident. The place where he had trained thousands of students over 15 years. The place Victor Reeves had tried to take from him. The lawyers say the property is fully yours again, Maya said, standing beside him. All of Reeves' claims have been invalidated. The deed is clear. What about the people he displaced? And the other businesses he destroyed? The federal settlement is providing restitution. It won't undo all the damage, but it's something. Something is better than nothing. That's what you always said. Darnell took a deep breath. Help me inside. Maya pushed his wheelchair up the ramp that had been installed after his accident. The door creaked open. The familiar smell of sweat and leather and years of hard work hit him like a wave. Home. The dojo was empty now. His students had scattered during his imprisonment. Some had found other schools. Others had given up training entirely. The mats were dusty. The equipment was covered in tarps. The whole place felt like a tomb. We can rebuild, Maya said. Start fresh. Get the word out that you're back. I'm not sure that's enough. What do you mean? Darnell rolled to the center of the room, the same spot where he had taught his first class 20 years ago, where he had learned to fight from a wheelchair, where he had discovered that limitations were just opportunities in disguise. I built this place for one kind of student, civilians who wanted to learn self-defense, veterans looking for purpose, people dealing with disabilities. And I found a different kind of student in prison, men who had nothing, who had been told they were worthless, who had given up on themselves and the world. His voice strengthened. Those are the people I need to reach now. Those are the people who need what I can offer. Former inmates, current inmates, anyone the system has failed. Darnell turned to face her. I want to build something new, something that takes what I learned in Blackstone and spreads it everywhere, to every prison, every halfway house, every corner where broken men are waiting for someone to show them another way. Maya was quiet for a moment, then she smiled. That sounds like a foundation. A what? A non-profit foundation, an organization that can raise money, train instructors, establish programs in facilities across the country. Her legal mind was already working. We could call it the Washington Foundation for Incarcerated Recovery, or something like that. You could do that, set something like that up. Dad, I'm a lawyer. This is literally what I do. I thought you did corporate law. I did, past tense. Maya took his hand. I quit my firm 6 months ago. I've been doing pro bono work for wrongfully convicted inmates ever since. Your case opened my eyes to how broken the system really is. You never told me that. I didn't want to worry you. You had enough to deal with. Darnell stared at his daughter, at the woman she had become while he wasn't watching, at the fighter she had always been beneath the surface. Your mother would be so proud of you, he said, his voice breaking. So incredibly proud. She'd be proud of both of us. The first call from Blackstone came 2 weeks later. Darnell answered on the second ring, expecting news about one of his former students. Instead, he heard a voice he never expected to hear again. Sifu, it's Jerome. Jerome? Darnell's heart swelled. How are you calling me inmates don't have access to outside numbers? Father O'Brien arranged it, said it was important. Is everything okay? Are you safe? I'm fine, better than fine, actually. Jerome's voice carried something new. Confidence, authority. That's why I'm calling. I wanted you to know what's happening in here. Tell me. The classes are still going, every day, bigger than ever. Jerome laughed. We've got over 200 students now, men from every block. Even some of the guards have started attending off the record. The guards? Sergeant Williams leads a group on weekends. Says it helps him deal with the stress of the job. Darnell couldn't believe what he was hearing. Williams is studying martial arts. Not just studying, teaching. He's taken over the beginner sessions while Marcus and I handle the advanced students. And the violence the gang conflicts. Down 60% since you left. Official statistics. The warden mentioned it in his monthly report. Jerome paused. He's asking about you, actually. Wants to know if you'd be willing to come back, as a consultant, to help establish your program officially. Officially? They want to make it part of the rehabilitation curriculum, fund it, staff it, roll it out to other facilities in the state. Darnell sat in stunned silence. The thing he had built in desperation, the community he had forged just to survive, was becoming something bigger than he ever imagined. Tell the warden I'm interested, Hankoke, he said finally. Tell him to have his people contact my people. You have people now. I have a daughter who's smarter than me. That counts as people. Jerome laughed again. It was a good sound, a healthy sound, the sound of a young man who had found his path. "There's something else," Jerome said. "Something I need to tell you personally." "What is it?" "I got word last week. My sentence is being reviewed. Good behavior. Program participation. The judge is talking about early release." "Jerome, that's wonderful." 18 months became 12. Maybe less if things keep going well. His voice wavered. "I'm going to see my sister again. I'm going to keep my promise." "Of course you are. I never doubted it." "I did. Every day for a long time I doubted it. You're the one who made me believe." Jerome's voice broke. "Thank you, Sifu, for everything. For seeing something in me when I couldn't see it myself. Thank you for letting me see it. For trusting me enough to try. When I get out, I know the Washington Foundation will be waiting for you. We're going to need good instructors." "You mean it." "I mean it. You've earned your place. Now earn your freedom. I'll see you on the other side." The call ended. Darnell sat in his empty dojo holding the phone, letting the tears fall freely. His students were carrying the torch. The fire he had lit was spreading. Maybe that was the real victory all along. 6 months after his release, the Washington Foundation for Incarcerated Recovery officially launched. Maya had worked miracles with paperwork and fundraising. Former students from the academy had volunteered their time. Father O'Brien had connected them with prison chaplains across the country. And the response was overwhelming. Requests came from facilities in 12 states. Wardens who had heard about the Blackstone transformation wanted the same results in their institutions. Governors looking for alternatives to failed rehabilitation programs reached out for meetings. Media outlets wanting to tell the story of the paralyzed martial artist who had changed prison culture from the inside. Darnell gave interviews when necessary, but he preferred to let the results speak for themselves. Every statistic about reduced violence, every testimony from transformed inmates, every letter from families reunited because fathers and sons had found their way back to humanity. The first official foundation program launched at a medium security facility in Georgia. Darnell traveled there personally to train the initial instructors, a group of corrections officers and volunteer civilians who would carry his teachings into the cell blocks. "This isn't about fighting, Lag," he told them on the first day. "It's never been about fighting. It's about connection, about showing men who have been abandoned by society that they still matter, that they can still become something more than their worst moments." "How do we do that?" one of the officers asked. "These guys don't trust anyone, especially not guards." "You earn their trust, same way you earn anyone's trust. You show up, you listen, you treat them like human beings instead of animals." Darnell's voice hardened. "I know that's not how you've been trained. I know the system encourages distance and dehumanization, but if you want this to work, you have to be willing to see the men behind the crimes." "What if we can't? What if some of them are just too far gone?" "Nobody's too far gone. I learned that in Blackstone. I met men who had done terrible things, men who had given up on themselves completely, and every single one of them had a spark left, a piece of themselves that wanted something better." "How do you find that spark?" "You ask them about their families, their children, their dreams before everything went wrong." Darnell rolled to the center of the training room. Every person in that prison was a child once. A child with hopes and fears and people who loved them. That child is still in there, buried under years of trauma and bad choices. Your job is to find them, to speak to them, to help them remember who they were before the world convinced them they were worthless. The program launched 2 weeks later. Within a month, the facility reported a 30% reduction in violent incidents. Within 3 months, that number had climbed to 50%. The results spoke for themselves. Raymond Cross was released from Blackstone 14 months after Darnell. The former assassin walked through the gates with nothing but a small bag of possessions and an address written on a piece of paper: the Washington School of Martial Arts, Madison and 5th. He arrived at noon on a Wednesday, standing outside the door for nearly an hour before finding the courage to knock. Maya answered. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for Darnell Washington. My name is Raymond Cross. He told me to come here when I got out." Maya's expression shifted. Recognition, understanding, perhaps a hint of the old fear. "You're the one who came to kill him." "I was, yes. And now I'm the one he saved." Cross met her eyes. "I know I don't deserve another chance. I know what I was, what I almost did. But your father believed in me when nobody else did. He showed me that I could be different, and I'm here to prove him right." Maya studied him for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. "He's in the training room, first door on the left." Cross walked through the academy with something close to reverence. This was the place that had shaped the man who had changed his life, the walls that had witnessed transformation long before Blackstone. He found Darnell leading a class of 6 students, children mostly ages 10 to 14 learning basic defensive techniques. Cross watched from the doorway as the paralyzed instructor moved among them with patience and grace. "Raymond." Darnell had spotted him without seeming to look, the awareness of a lifetime warrior. "Class take 5 minutes. Practice your breathing exercises." The children scattered to different corners of the room. Darnell rolled toward Cross, his face unreadable. "You made it." "I made it." "How does it feel being out?" Cross struggled to find words. "Strange. Like wearing someone else's clothes. Like the world moved on without me and I'm trying to catch up." "That feeling will fade. Eventually." "When?" "When you stop thinking of yourself as an ex-con and start thinking of yourself as a person who happens to have served time." Darnell gestured to a bench along the wall. "Sit. Tell me about your plans." Cross sat. His hands trembled slightly. "I don't have plans. That's why I'm here. You said the Foundation would have a place for from. "I did say that." "Did you mean it?" Darnell was quiet for a moment. "What did you learn in Blackstone after I left?" "Everything. Jerome and Marcus kept the classes going. I attended every single one, learned to teach eventually, started leading sessions for the new guys who came in scared and lost. Like you were when you arrived." "Exactly like I was." Cross's voice strengthened. "I found something in there, purpose, direction, a reason to wake up every morning that wasn't just hate and anger. And now I want to share it, with people like me, people who've been told they're irredeemable, people who've given up on themselves because the world gave up on them first." Darnell nodded slowly. "We're starting a new program next month, high-security facility in Texas. We need instructors who understand what those men are going through, who've lived it. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you a chance to prove everything you just said." Darnell held his gaze. "It won't be easy. The men in that facility are harder than anything you faced in Blackstone. Some of them will resist everything you try to teach. Some of them will fail no matter how hard you work." "I know." Do you really understand what you're signing up for?" Cross leaned forward. "When I came to Blackstone, I was ready to kill you, ready to spend the rest of my life in a cell if that's what it took to avenge my uncle. You looked at that broken, twisted person and saw something worth saving." He stood. "I want to do that for someone else. I want to be the person who looks at the worst of the worst and says, 'I see you, I believe in you, let me show you another way.'" Darnell smiled. It was the smile of a teacher watching his student surpass all expectations. "Welcome to the Foundation, Raymond. Let's get to work." Jerome Thompson walked out of Blackstone on a warm morning in early summer. His sister Destiny waited at the gates, 11 years old now, clutching a handmade sign that read, "Welcome home, big brother." He dropped to his knees and held her tight, crying like he hadn't cried since the night their mother died. All the fear, all the shame, all the lonely nights wondering if he would ever see her again. It all poured out in that embrace. "I missed you," Destiny whispered. "I missed you too, baby girl, so much." "Are you staying now, for real?" "For real. I'm never leaving you again." 3 months later, Jerome stood before a crowd of 200 people at the first annual Washington Foundation Gala. Former inmates, current students, donors, politicians, everyone who had played a role in building something that had started in a prison yard and grown into a national movement. "When I first met Darnell Washington," Jerome began, his voice steady, "I was a scared kid who had given up on everything. I thought my life was over. I thought I was worthless. I thought the best I could hope for was survival." He paused, looking out at the faces before him. "He showed me something different, not through lectures or sermons, through presence, through consistency, through the simple act of showing up every day and treating me like I mattered." Jerome's eyes found Darnell in the crowd. The older man sat in his wheelchair near the front, Maya beside him, watching with pride. "That's what this foundation is about. Not fancy techniques or complicated philosophies. Just showing up. Just seeing people for who they can be instead of what they've done. Just believing in this possibility of change even when everything says it's impossible." He raised his glass. "To Darnell Washington, the man who taught me that strength has nothing to do with legs and everything to do with heart. The man who showed a generation of broken men that they could be whole again. The man who proved that sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one everyone underestimates." The crowd raised their glasses. To Darnell. To Darnell. The words echoed through the hall, and in that moment, surrounded by the people he had saved and the family he had built, Darnell Washington finally understood what his father had meant all those years ago. The world didn't need more fighters. It needed more teachers. People who could show others how to find the fighter inside themselves. He had become that teacher, against all odds, despite everything that had been taken from him, and his legacy would live on long after he was gone. The final letter arrived 3 years later. It came from a prison in California from an inmate Darnell had never met, a young man named Marcus Jackson, who had been serving life without parole for murder. Dear Mr. Washington, you don't know me, but I know you, or at least I know what you built. The Foundations program came to our facility 6 months ago. At first, I refused to participate. I thought it was another scam, another promise that would be broken like all the others. But the instructor, a man named Raymond Cross, wouldn't give up on me. He kept showing up, kept inviting me, kept treating me like I mattered, even when I treated him like garbage. Eventually, I went, just to get him off my back. That first session changed everything. For the first time in 15 years, someone looked at me like I was human. Someone listened to my story without judging. Someone told me that my worst moment didn't have to define the rest of my life. I'm writing to thank you, not just for the program, for believing that people like me are worth saving, for building something that reaches into the darkest corners of the system and offers light to men who had forgotten what light looked like. I'm still serving life. That hasn't changed. Maybe it never will. But I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. I'm not the angry, hopeless, dead-inside man who had given up on everything. I'm someone new, someone better, someone who wakes up every morning with purpose instead of despair. You did that. You and everyone who carries your teaching. Thank you, Mr. Washington. Thank you for seeing value in the discarded. Thank you for proving that redemption is possible for anyone willing to do the work. Your student in spirit, Marcus Jackson Darnell, read the letter 3 times. Then he wheeled himself to the window of his office and looked out at the Atlanta skyline. Somewhere out there in prisons and halfway houses and forgotten corners of society, men were discovering that they could change, that their past didn't have to be their future, that someone somewhere believed in them. His work was complete, and it would never be finished. That was the nature of legacy. It grew beyond its creator, took on a life of its own, touched lives that would touch other lives in an endless ripple of transformation. Maya found him there an hour later, still staring out the window. Dad, are you okay? Darnell turned to face her. His daughter, his pride. The woman who had fought for his freedom and helped build his dream. I'm better than okay, he said. I'm grateful. For what? For everything. For you, for the Foundation, for every single person who gave me a chance to make a difference. He took her hand. When I lost my legs, I thought my life was over. When they threw me in prison, I was sure of it. But none of that was the end. It was all just preparation for this. For what exactly? Darnell smiled. It was the smile of a man at peace, a man who had found his purpose and fulfilled it beyond his wildest dreams. For proving that the most important battles aren't fought with fists, they're fought with faith. Faith in people, faith in possibility. Faith that no matter how dark things get, light can always find a way in. He squeezed her hand. Your mother taught me that. You taught me that. And now through everything we've built, we're teaching the world. Maya knelt beside his wheelchair and laid her head against his arm. Father and daughter, survivors, builders. I love you, Dad. I love you too, baby girl, more than words can say. Outside, the sun set over Atlanta, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, and somewhere in the distance, in a prison yard not unlike the one where it all began, a man in a wheelchair taught another group of broken men how to breathe, how to think, how to become something more than what the world had made them. The legacy continued, and it always would.